In Iran, the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, has held several meetings with some of the heads of government who were coming to the Persian capital to join the millions of Iranians honoring the memory of President Ebrahim Raisi and his 8 deceased comrades. Spain, Norway, and Ireland are set to formally recognize Palestine as an independent state on May 28th. And in Argentina, opposition deputies managed to install budget and education commissions to increase university funds. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Iran, the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, has met with some of the heads of government coming to the Persian capital to honor the memory of President Ebrahim Raisi and his 8 martyred comrades. In that respect, the first delegation to arrive in Tehran was the Palestinian resistance, followed by officials from Iraq, Qatar, Egypt, China, and others. While several international representatives are on their way to attend the ceremony, which will take place at 4 p.m. local time on Wednesday. Within this context, the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, led the prayers over the bodies of the President Ebrahim Raisi and his comrades in the presence of millions of people accompanying the funeral procession. The 8 coffins of the victims of the plane crash were received by local people and representatives of international and religious delegations at the University of Tehran. The martyrs were mourned by attendants with flowers, pictures, and pledges of eternal loyalty, with the crowd also expressing messages of solidarity with the Palestinian cause. In this context, the President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, sent his condolences to the people of Iran following the death of President Ebrahim Raisi.
We express our condolences to the people of Iran for the death in an accident of the President of Iran and the Foreign Minister of this republic, of this nation. So far, this is the information we have. Our deepest condolences for the death of these leaders, the President, the Foreign Minister, and other members of the government of Iran.
Likewise, Russian President Vladimir Putin also expressed his solidarity with the people of Iran over the death of President Ebrahim Raisi.
The death of President Raisi is a great loss, first of all, to Iran and the Iranian people, of course. Please convey my deepest condolences for this tragedy. In fact, he was a very reliable partner, a simple man.
And we move on to other topics. Spain, Norway, and Ireland recognized Palestine as an independent state on Wednesday. The measure will be formally adopted by the 3 countries on May 28th. The Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre gave a press conference in Oslo in which he assured that there can be no peace if Israel and Palestine do not have their own state. Hours before, the Norwegian Foreign Minister, Espen Barth, had assured that if the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu touched Norwegian territory, he would be arrested in accordance with the decision of the Criminal Court of Justice.
So this is both to say that we will recognize Palestine as a state, which has been long in the making, and that the moment is right, but that the context in which we do that is support for this regional comprehensive peace vision.
In this regard, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez announced that his country will join those in the world that recognize the Palestinian state.
I would like to inform you that after having reached a consensus decision between the two parties that formed the pro-resistance coalition government, and echoing the majority sentiment of the Spanish people, next Tuesday, May 28th, Spain will approve in its Council of Ministers the recognition of the State of Palestine.
On the other hand, Pedro Sánchez also assured in a clear message to the European governments that in defense of the human rights can have no double standards.
Therefore, we cannot allow, the countries that defend human rights and the international order based on rules, we are obliged to act in Ukraine and in Palestine without double standards. We are obliged to do everything in our power, sending humanitarian aid as we are doing, assisting refugees and displaced people as we are doing, but also using all the political levers to say loud and clear that we will not allow the destruction by force of the possibility of the two states, which is the only just and sustainable solution to this terrible conflict.
And in the meantime, the Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris declared that this was a historic day in the search for peace and security for Palestine and Israel.
It is a statement of unequivocal support for a two-state solution, the only credible path to peace and security for Israel, for Palestine, and for their peoples.
In this context, the Palestinian government on Wednesday thanked the European governments that decided to recognize the independence of its state. In this regard, President Mahmoud Abbas affirmed in an official statement that his government appreciates the contribution of this decision to the Palestinian people's right to self-determination in their land and to the adoption of real measures to support the implementation of this two-state solution. In the meantime, the Palestinian leader also called on the countries of the world that have not yet recognized Palestine as a state to do so in accordance with the solution based on resolutions of international legitimacy. Meanwhile, in Rafah, southern Gaza, thousands of Palestinians have been under heavy shelling and crossfire for the last 12 hours. The attacks occur as Israel is engaging in hefty clashes with the Palestinian resistance, while in the Tal al-Sultan town, the few agencies in the area also reported heavy shelling by the regime. The current situation in the Gaza Strip continues to escalate despite repeated warnings from humanitarian organizations, the Palestinian media, and the Gazan leadership. Neither the United Nations nor the international community have taken action to avert the catastrophe that thousands of Palestinians are experiencing. In this setting, even the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, which used to have an unwavering presence, has been forced to suspend food distribution due to insecure conditions. And on Tuesday, the spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary General Stefan Dujarric recalled that U.S. President Joseph Biden that the decisions of the global institutions must be respected. Dujarric answered in this way to the U.S. President's criticism of the ruling regarding Israel declared by the International Court of Justice prosecutor. Earlier, the head of the White House and Israel's main partner in the genocidal operation against Gaza referred to the verdict as outrageous, paying more attention to the comparison between Hamas and what Biden calls the Hebrew state than to the nearly 40,000 Palestinian deaths. And the Faculty of Philosophy and Humanities of the University of Chile is nowadays the first institution of higher education to break academic relations with its Israeli counterpart in repudiation of the genocide against the Palestinian people. The decision was taken in the context of the takeover of the Central House by students protesting against the massacre committed by the Tel Aviv army, especially in Gaza, which has already claimed the lives of more than 35,000 people, mostly women and children. A statement from the Dean's Office of the Faculty disseminated on social networks announced the suspension of the cooperation agreement signed in 1999 with the International Center for University Teaching of Jewish Culture and the Institute of Judaic Sciences of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The libertarian government in Argentina suffered a heavy defeat this Tuesday. The opposition deputies managed to install budget and education commissions to increase university funds. With 152 votes of the Peronist Union for the Homeland, the Left Front and Center parties, they defeated the right wing Together for Change and the ruling Libertarians, who could only add up to 81 votes in a session that lasted more than 5 hours. The initiatives presented by the opposition are meant to declare the budget emergency and update the financing items for the national public universities in the country.
When we are brought here to discuss laws that have to do with the university, as if the university were an island, we are very surprised, because those of us who are moved, when we hear the stories of boys and girls who have to stop studying because they can't pay the rent, because they were fired from their jobs, and can't continue working to pay for their studies. We know that the cuts that are being made to the public university, and that we are trying to deal with today, and we don't know yet if it will be successful or not, is not an isolated act. It is part of the brutal cuts that the government of Argentina is carrying out.
And we stay in Argentina as teachers and police protests continue in the province of Misiones to demand wage increases. The mobilization rejects the neoliberal policies of Milei's government that affect provincial budgets. The demonstrators confirmed on Monday that no agreement had been reached with the authorities, so they would continue with their demands. The police agents' requests include the payment of the wages that they are owed and a salary increase of over 100% to reach the basic food basket and improve the overall income in face of the current inflation. The mobilizations could affect the national commerce since Misiones is a logistic node in the triple border with Paraguay and Brazil. The Argentinian Healthcare Workers Union also reached its second day of protest through informative assemblies to demand a salary increase. A statement from the Federation of Argentinian Healthcare Workers Association, FATSA, stated that there are 300,000 employees at national level who have no recognition or claims of any kind from the business sector, and that their salaries have lost purchasing power due to the country's economic situation. The representatives of this new union state that after numerous meetings with the employers' representatives, there is no consensus for the salaries to be in accordance with the work that they perform. In other news, congressmen, social leaders, and representatives of the executive of Colombia alerted to the dangerous messages sent by former President Álvaro Uribe to the military. At an event held on Tuesday at the University of La Sabana in Cundinamarca, Uribe, who has judicial proceedings against him for crimes of bullying and procedural fraud, called on the armed forces to disobey the president, Gustavo Petro, further expressing that the armed forces could not stand still by government orders. These declarations coincide with the security crisis initiated in Cauca by the dissidents of the FARC, known as the Central General Staff. In response, various sectors have reacted to Uribe's words and reminded him that the armed forces are not deliberative. In the United States, a tornado described by regional authorities as apocalyptic leaves several people dead in Iowa. State police spokesman Alex Dinkla said that so far 12 people have been reported injured, all of them from the community of Greenfield. The city has been under a mandatory curfew since 10 p.m. local time on Tuesday, which will last until 7 a.m. on Wednesday. The media has also been evacuated from the area. What is known so far is that the powerful storms that hit the Midwest have caused multiple tornadoes, such as the one that devastated this community of barely 2,000 inhabitants. Also in Cuba, members of the Forest Ranger Corps controlled one of the forest fires in the municipality of San Juan y Martínez in the western province of Pinar del Rio. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Pireda, head of the Forest Ranger Corps, reported that local agricultural workers and peasants from the place known as Agua Dulce arrived at the affected place to help prevent the fire from spreading further. The rain was also another ally in putting down the flames. Nevertheless, between 150 and 156 hectares of Pino Garibea Joven were affected by the fire. And we have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Vietnam, the parliament approved an appointment issued by the Communist Party with the purpose of naming Tu Lam, current Minister of Public Security, as the new president of the country. The poll resulted in 472 votes in favor out of 473 present. The new head of state sworn in at the parliamentary headquarters. Tu Lam is 66 years old, holds a doctorate in law, and has been condecorated several times. He pledged his absolute loyalty to the country, the people, and the Constitution during his inauguration speech at the National Assembly meeting on Wednesday in Hanoi, the capital of the country. President of China Xi Jinping already congratulated the Parliament of Vietnam and Lam for the presidency. In this context, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, expressed in a post on the social network X that on behalf of the Venezuelan people, he congratulates Tu Lam who was sworn in as president of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. In this sense, he also stressed that his government reaffirms its commitment to continue to raise bilateral fraternal relations to the highest level in the various areas of cooperation. In other news, one man has died and 30 people have been injured in Singapore Airlines flight that has to make an emergency landing in Bangkok, Thailand, due to heavy turbulence. The flight, which left London Heathrow Airport on Monday night, was bound for Singapore. The deceased is a 73-year-old British citizen who was traveling with his wife and allegedly suffered a heart attack. The Boeing 777-300ER was carrying 211 passengers and 18 crew members, according to the airline. Among the 30 injured, 7 of them are in critical condition. Videos posted on social network X show a dozen ambulances arriving on the tarmac to attend the injured. In Russia, the military have started the first phase of training on the preparation and use of non-strategic nuclear weapons. This exercise was convened by the commander of the Southern Military Region, which is aimed at maintaining military readiness in view of the statements of Western officials. It is worth noting that the missile forces are practicing the preparation for the use of Iskander tactical missile systems. In addition to the aviation, will provide aviation weapons, including Kinzhal hypersonic missiles with special payloads, and will proceed to patrol its area. 2 centuries-old sculptures stolen from Thailand were returned to the Asian country by the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. The pieces, dating back to the 11th century, are a standing gold-plate bronze representation of the Hindu god Shiva and another a kneeling image of a woman with gold and silver decorations. Both sculptures arrived to custom facilities in Bangkok, where experts carried out a first inspection. An official ceremony is scheduled for Tuesday to celebrate the return of the sculptures, which will be transferred for display at the National Museum. The Metropolitan Museum removed these pieces from the exhibition and announced the return. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. But you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.